But I do want to make sure that we do have time to get to your wonderful demos.
Sure, yeah.
So let's take a look at something you built. You mentioned
Okay,
using Liquid to simplify portal queries. Can you walk us through that setup?
sure. So I'm going to share what's in my test database right now, and that's actually one thing that is one little tip. So I never really thought about using my time warp database until I came to Stevenson. So using that for like shorter things, and then using test for longer things. And so I put this in test because we are always refreshing our time warp environment because someone's always like putting something in production and refreshing time warp and checking it. And so that's just one little tip that I would give for doing things.
Love
Can
that.
every
Thank you.
can we see the Stevenson Campus Visit Management portal?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay,
Looking great already.
awesome. All right. So we have this campus visit management portal, and I'll try to be as thorough as possible without boring everyone. But basically, we have all of these different templates. We have on campus interviews, we have virtual interviews, we have shadow days, we have group tours, we have consultant visits, and parent visits. And all of them have different templates because they have different needs for the forums and the communications. But our office manager really needs to see all of those and kind of make sure that everybody's staying on top of things and that we have tour guides and all of that. So we have this campus visit management portal. And then inside of it, we have this little hamburger menu here. And that will show today's visits, tomorrow's visits, upcoming visitors. And then we did have past visitors for past regular visitors and past virtual interviews. We don't use those as much anymore. So that's another like thing of as you're going through things, maybe like we're not using it. Let's take it off and see if anybody notices. But we haven't yet. So I'll be focusing on these things when we talk about them. But in this is so beautiful and so easy. You go to today and you can see who's here today if it loads. And we'll see that today we have a virtual interviewer. And these are all test cases from Parks and Rec. But you can see that we have today's virtual interview here. And then if I go to tomorrow on the hamburger menu, then I can see tomorrow we have Ann Perkins coming and she's coming on campus. So it's a really quick and easy way to do this, which is awesome, except for on the back end, it was a huge disaster and it was very difficult. And my caveat here is I made none of this. If there's anything cool that I ever show, it's because someone else made it and I stole it / borrowed it / either suitcase. This was actually Emily Toops, our director of data operations. She made this a long time ago. It may have been Alan Tang, who was the associate director of data operations before me. Could have been him too, one of the two of them. But Emily and I were talking about this one day, and I was like, all of these queries had to go with different views, and then they had different methods, and it was just a lot to update. And I'll make this bigger. It was just a lot to update every single time we needed something to update it. And Emily said, well, why don't you just assign subgroups based on a query? And something to that effect. I have no idea what that meant. Still kind of a little hazy on it, even though I'm going to demonstrate it today. She said, we can do one sustainable query, and then you can pull views from that query using Liquid Markup. And I was like, okay, well, show me what we're going to do. So now we have one query, and I'm going to start with the query and then go to the views and then kind of go back a little bit too. So we have one query that is a configurable joins form response base because I want to have one row per form response for all of these different templates. So if a student signs up to come on a campus visit on campus and also virtually, I want both of those to show up. So I do not want to start with like a person or application based. We need to start with a form response base there. And then the big kind of filters that I'm doing is I want it in these templates. Stevenson is amazing, and we are actually all in one database for advancement, student success, admissions, everything, like from the time you're a prospect to the time you die as a donor, hopefully as an alum, as a grandparent, you were in our database. So we have to be really specific about templates. So I want all things, I joined to, or someone did joined to the form based on form response. So I want the templates that I'm looking for. I want it to be greater than today, and I want it to be either attended or registered. We don't care about canceled. Maybe some folks might. So we have kind of the general stuff you'd want to know from each form response. They joined out to person. We want to know their name. We want to know if they're boarding or day. That's important for us. We want to know the date that they're coming to visit. We want to know their gender, those kinds of things. But where some of the magic happens is here inside these two exports right here. So we have exported a couple of different subqueries. where we're wanting to know, okay, so they're coming today, or they're coming tomorrow, or they're coming in the future, and what kind of visit are they doing? Are they doing an in-person visit? Are they doing a virtual visit? So what we did is we used a case statement. So we have these two different, we're concatenating two different exports, and concatenating just means putting together, like literally putting together. And we're doing little sub exports here. So if we click on this, so I would just do an export here. And then I'm saying, okay, I'm going to give us what the current date is. And I'm also going to give us the date that the student is visiting. And we're going to basically say when today's date equals the date that the student is coming to visit, then say today. I'm going to stop for a second and kind of talk a little bit about case statements, because they're also one of my favorite things. And I had no idea how to use those again. If we're sensing a theme here, David, this is the theme. I didn't know how to use them either. I was like a newborn baby when I came to Steve. It was great. The case statements basically said, like, when this happens, then make it this. It's like a translation code, but you don't have to set up a translation code. It's just a formula that says, take this piece of data, either compare it or see if something's inside of it, and then spit something else out. You have to be correct with your syntax. You have to have like single quotes around the kind of value that you want to happen. It's kind of like Excel when you do certain things. You have to have, if you want it to be kind of text, you have to put the right things around it. But it's real, once you figure it out, it's beautiful, and it's so nice because you don't have to do translation codes. So I'm telling this, I'm saying, okay, if the current date equals the date the student's coming, then export in that column today. Otherwise, say future, because I know that it's not in the past, because I have that query filter at the bottom that it's not going to be in the past. And so those two things are being added there. The other thing that I'm concatenating and putting together is the type of visit that the student is having today. And in this, I could have just exported the form template, and I could have just done that, but it got a little long because our form templates are long. So I used another case statement. Also, just really like them now, right? So once you learn one tool, you just use it over and over again. But I'm saying, okay, so when the template is in campus preview visits, then basically say the kind of visit the student is having as group. If it's in a UD campus visit, then say individual. If it's in a shadow days, then shadow, so on and so forth. So you can kind of see how I took those template names and made them shorter and made them more computer friendly. So it's easier to be able to use formulas and things on them. So in general, I'm basically saying for this column, I'm saying I'm concatenating together, is the visit today or in the future, and then what type of visit it is. And then I have I'll go back to that for a second. So now when I look at my views, I can look at my future visitors view. And instead of having a view per thing, I want a view for, view for future on-campus visitors. I'm going to view for future virtual visitors. I have this one tab here that has the visitors, the future visitors, which is the upcoming one. And I can just pull into the view. I can pull everything from that one query. So I'll kind of talk through the query a little, the liquid markup in here. So I have a couple different content blocks. I have things that are inactive because I wasn't sure they were going to work, right? Or they were older, and so I inactivated them. So the ones that I have active that are dark. And Emily taught me this. So she basically said, inside the queries, you can then assign based on columns or other pieces of data. You can say, if this happens, then assign it this grouping. So we're grouping it together. And whoever's listening to this may be like, oh yeah, it's called a blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know what that is, but I'm using it. It should be very accessible podcast here. So we're saying, okay, I want to assign the future individual group to when inside that PB visits query that I have, and with that time type, what we just talked about, whether it's today, whether it's future or today or whatever, I want to assign a future individual. I'm going to assign the group of future individual where that column says future individual. So give me everything in the query, but then only show me the ones that say future individual right here. And then this little other piece here is only if that grouping that I've now assigned anybody in future individual is greater than 0. So if there's anybody who's coming in future individual, show me this and loop through here. The 4 item in future individual that's liquid looping. So you're saying, okay, for anybody in this grouping, I want to know the date and the name and the visit exceptions and the staff. One thing that really threw me when I was first learning about liquid looping and dictionary experts and all that, I did not understand like how you got the item in future individual, and
Mm.
apparently it's just any word you want to put. So you just have to, be consistent for item, for result, for student. You just have to be consistent here and here to say, okay, if it's for item, then it needs to be item date. If it's for result, then it needs to be result dot date. Another rookie mistake I generally make is I do like item underscore date instead of item dot date, and then I'm wondering why is it not coming through, and that is why. But I'll just kind of just hopefully some things that people can take away and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then and then otherwise, if there is nothing in that grouping, then we would say no campus visitors scheduled. So we're going to go back here for some of these. There must have been no one in upcoming virtual interviews because there is no virtual interview scheduled. There is something in the upcoming tours and interviews for the regular campus visits. And so it is displaying and looping through these different fields here for anyone in that query that has those that meets that future individual. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's kind of understandable. And then was able to now then copy, like literally just copy and paste, which was really nice to say, okay, so this one was future individual. Now I want to grab anybody who's future virtual. And again, I use the same, the same syntax, use the same headers, everything is the same, and it's pulling all from that one query. And then you can say, future virtual. So that was super helpful. It made life a lot easier. It's only one query to update, especially we add a lot of templates and then you got to go back in, and if you had to update them on all these queries, then it's just a lot of work. So this is really helpful. The one kind of out of the box thinking that I personally did on this was this other one that was called tomorrow type. So I went back to the query because I thought, okay, well, they want to know if they're upcoming, they want to know if they're future, but they also want to know specifically tomorrow. So they had, I thought through a bunch of different things and none of them were working, and I was trying really hard, and then all of a sudden I thought, I can just look at a different column, right? I can just look at, I can create another column, and I can just say, well, if it's in tomorrow, then I want it to show in the tomorrow group. So similar kind of thing. So I went into, I basically copied the same subquery export, and I, instead of saying if today's start date equals today, say if the form start date equals current date, say today, now I'm just saying, I used another formula basically of if the current date is, +1, so date add, day one. So if it's tomorrow, then say tomorrow. And if it's not, then say not tomorrow. Because all I cared about in that column was either tomorrow or not tomorrow. One other little tidbit that I learned was if you type a whatever, however old you are, if it's a hashtag, if it's a pound sign, I don't know, it depends on your age, what you think that is. Then you can find different formulas, which is also super helpful because again, like if you don't know how to use a case statement, it kind of starts it for you and will give you that example, which is really helpful if you're new at using formulas inside of things. And I use the date add one because I just didn't remember. So in this one, I'm saying still the same type, whatever the type is, but is it a tomorrow visit or is it not a tomorrow visit? So then I could go back into my view now, and now I'm pulling. I'm going to go to the tomorrow visitors tab, and then I'm saying if in that big query that I was just looking at for everybody else, if the type, if that column of tomorrow type is tomorrow individual, then assign that grouping as tomorrow individual and show it there. And then if it's not going to show that. So it just makes the whole, hopefully that was a good enough explanation that people can understand like how we are using that liquid markup and how if I was smart and thoughtful, that I would probably go in, I could take almost all of these queries out and I could just be using this PV visit sustainable. And it could be just going to my couple of different views that come down for my hamburger, and my couple of different methods would connect with that. But really, this is also a plug to clean up your database. But usually captains don't have time. So, right. So now this is just a lot easier, more sustainable way to use a portal.
That is fantastic. I love how much thought you put into making this so functional, but also cleaning up the back end. And even if you haven't deleted all this stuff, I imagine you go into any Slate database or any system database, and there's just those kinds of like vestigial, like, yeah, this doesn't really used anymore except for that one spot. And I don't have the like 25 minutes to clean up that one spot. So it just is there.
And also, if you're new, it made me really nervous. It still makes me really nervous to delete something in case, like, oh, maybe I wanted to go back in and look at that, even if it was not what I'm doing now. Yeah. Upvote notes on portals, though. Man, I would like notes on portals. So upvote that,
I
folks. Yeah.
Yeah, fully love any spot that you can put notes. That is always a win. So yes, I would also echo that. Go upvote that. I'll try to
Yep.
find the URL just so people can click on it and just
Yeah.
go do it.
That's true.
That'd be great.